So, very good afternoon to everyone. Welcome to class 12th economics. We are doing economic reforms since 1991, and we have already covered liberalization and privatization completely. Where in the liberalization, I told you all that it refers to abolishing the license system, not only in industries, but liberalization was done in various aspects. For example, in the financial or banking sector, also liberalization was done. In industrial sector, also liberalization was done. Then there was the liberalization in the other sectors also, right? We have already covered that liberalization topic. Then we did privatization. Privatization is basically earlier to 1991 there was the major role given to the public sector undertakings only, because entry was restricted to the private sector, that private sector should not come more in Indian economy, because otherwise the objective of social welfare will be hindered. So that's why, keeping in mind that objective, government of India stopped private sectors to come across in the nation in Indian to compete with the Indian domestic industries. But still, even stopping the entry of the private sector, it was found that public sector undertaking could not do well, could not work well. So definitely there was a need to do something else, so that if now government will not do good something, then in that case government is going to lose all its resources, and definitely government will not be in a position to return back to the normalcy. In that case, we went for privatization. So privatization was selling off shares of the public sector undertaking of government by government to the private entrepreneurs, and that can be like wholly selling of shares completely, or either that could be some of the shares when we are selling it to the private sectors. Then we started globalization in the last class. Globalization is like treating the whole world as one economy. It means integration of the economy, integration of the domestic economy with the world economy. Like when we are matching with the world's economy, that is basically the globalization, in which I told you that three major things were given free. Concurrency, that was the free flow of goods, free flow of services, and also free flow of investment and people. So ultimately, globalization refers to removing the trade barriers, removing the trade barriers, or removing the geographical barriers. Now, after the globalization, we could move to any of the country where we wanted, in search of job, for importing goods or services, for visiting purpose. So that those all things have been abolished. Then we have the next one, like measures taken for globalization of Indian economy, like what government has already covered. So I already explained you yesterday. Government removed all the quotas. Government removed all the quotas. Quotas means the restrictions which were imposed on the quantity of goods to be basically traded. So all these restrictions were removed. Now people could easily purchase or import or even export any of the quantity of the commodity which we wanted to do with the other country. Likewise, the convertibility of Indian rupee was also done. For example, I told you that government of India itself reduced or devalued the Indian currency. But why we devalued our Indian currency? So that Indian currency would become cheaper as compared to the foreign currency, and foreigners, more and more foreigners are going to purchase the commodities from India only, and we will start getting the foreign exchange that we have done in the last class. Now, I explained you about the outsourcing also, that outsourcing is the result of the globalization only, right? Outsourcing is the result of the globalization only, because there is globalization. So ultimately we are doing the outsourcing. But what is outsourcing? Outsourcing basically refers to contracting out. It refers to the contracting out of the important things, or contracting out the important basically work to be done through those who are expert in that work. For example, if India is expert in IT industry, Indian expert in IT industry, then we are getting the work for IT industries, or for IT official work we are getting from many countries, because they are outsourcing us that work. So It is only and only possible because this is the era of globalization. Because if it is, there is no globalization, then no country will allow anybody to enter in their own country, or will not allow anybody to give us work, or will not be doing work for other countries. So that is all because of globalization only, that outsourcing exists. And outsourcing is very important concept, because it's a practice where a company hires the regular services from the expert countries. Suppose India is an expert country in the IT, so America or other countries are basically giving us all the service work, all the IT service work, and we are receiving the IT service work, and we are performing regularly for these countries. Same way, many kind of services can be there. There can be the legal service, computer service, advertisement service, information technology service, data entry, accounting service. Many services can be there which we can outsource to other people. Okay, then next we have that India is a favorite destination for outsourcing. Yes, India is a favorite destination for outsourcing of commodities, but of services. But why India? India is the number one outsourcing destination in the world, and has been consecutively for the past 15 years. The reason is very simple, that we have abundance of population with us. First of all, we have abundance of labor, abundance of population with us, because we believe in labor intensive, and we have abundance of labor available in India. Because of more available labor, the labor is somewhere cheap, which means आपको सस्ती लेबर इसके अंदर मिल जाती है. Don't have to pay a lot of money to the labor for getting work done. So in that case, India had become a favorite destination for various countries, and especially for the outsourcing of IT work, call center work. All right. And also Indians are found to be the speaking English, जो basically fluent English के लिए भी इनको बोलते हैं हम लोग. So there are many reasons for which we say that India has become a favorite destination also. Then also one of the reason, like wage rates are low in India, right? So companies can reduce their cost of production. If any company is aiming to reduce the cost of production, then in that case definitely the wage rates are low in India, and they'll be getting the cheap labor. So in that case, ultimately there can be the the companies will be in the benefit only if they're getting the less cost of production. Same way, India has a lot of skilled manpower also. India has a lot of skilled manpower also, because India has a lot of skilled manpower. In this case, definitely there would not be any shortage of labor, or there would not be any problem with the employers who are hiring or who are outsourcing their work done from India. And Indians are also found fluent in English language. So that's why companies prefer to get work done through Indians only. Okay. Then outsourcing is good for India. Of course, outsourcing is good for India. One question can be there for 3 marks. It provides employment opportunities to a large number of educated people. Of course, that outsourcing provides the employment opportunities to a large number of educated people. Same way, it enables India to earn a lot of foreign exchange also. Then it improves the GDP of the country, and economic growth rate also increases. So somewhere it is definitely good for India or any other developing country, because it can get its growth rate in GDP. It can get more employment through those companies who are giving the outsourced work to India. Also, there can be other benefits as well, which will be definitely going to give more benefits to India or any other developing country. But one major question, 3 mark question, this can also be there, that developed countries are opposing outsourcing. And why developed countries are opposing outsourcing? Developed countries are opposing outsourcing because it reduces the employment opportunities in their countries. For example, if India starts giving the money, so if India starts giving the work, let's suppose that if India starts outsourcing their task to some other country, in that case already when we know that we have lack of job opportunities, we have lack of job opportunities, and if we start giving work to other countries, in that case we will not be in a position to provide job opportunities to our own countries, है ना? We will not be in a position to provide job opportunities to our own countries. So definitely the developed countries are opposing the outsourcing, because they feel that if developed countries are going to give the outsourcing work done from other countries only again and again, in that case it is going to reduce the employment opportunities in their own countries. Then it leads to outflow of foreign exchange also. Okay, Saksham, I'm explaining once again. Suppose the point is, developed countries are opposing outsourcing. See, developed countries always oppose outsourcing. Why these companies oppose outsourcing? Because developed countries think like, or many other countries who are outsourcing the work done from others, they think like if they are giving their work to other countries, that means they are providing the employment opportunities to other countries. In that case, they are somewhere not providing their employment opportunities to their own countrymen. When I am giving job to other person, that means I am not giving job to my own person. So somewhere in this regard, the developed countries may oppose the outsourcing work. Same way it leads to outflow of foreign exchange also. It leads to outflow of foreign exchange also, because what happens is that if I'm getting work done through others, if I'm getting work outsourced from other country, then I have to make payment to them in their own currency, है ना. मुझे तो उनकी currency में payment करना पड़ेगा, because मेरी currency तो सिर्फ मेरी country में चलेगी. I have to buy their currency, मुझे उनकी currency purchase करनी पड़ेगी और उसमें पैसा payment उनको काफी करना पड़ेगा. तो इससे foreign currency का outflow भी होता है. Then it affects their growth rate also. ये उन countries की growth rate को भी affect करता है जो country दूसरों से काम outsource करवा रही है, because they are giving work to others. Now, almost the last topic of this chapter, that is now World Trade Organization, WTO. You must have already studied this in previous classes. So the major important points we are going to discuss about WTO now. World Trade Organization. It was started in 1995. Major point that you have to study about it. Please note down. WTO was started in 1995. There was one system. There was an organization already existing, and the organization was GATT, GATT, which is General Agreement on Trade and Tariff. Whenever any two countries, if any two countries are doing any work, whenever any two countries are doing any work, any trade, any import and export, they had to register themselves under GATT. Earlier, ये पहले होता था, General Agreement on Trade and Tariff. But in 1995, this General Agreement on Trade and Tariff, GATT, was replaced by WTO, that is World Trade Organization. This is the result of globalization only, because the WTO aims for treating the whole world as one economy. The WTO aims for treating the whole world as one economy, that every economy must register themselves in WTO, and whatever trade we are going to do with other countries or with different countries, we can directly do that trade with the help of WTO if we are registered in that, because it aims for treating the whole world as single economy, right? So this was started in 1995, and it replaced GATT, that is General Agreement on Trade and Tariff. Second point अगर हम पढ़े, it is an international organization that promotes foreign trade and foreign investment. As I told you, its main aim is treating the whole world as one economy. So it's an international organization, because it involves the membership of various different countries. So it is an international organization whose main aim is to promote the foreign trade, that countries must do trade with themselves. Its main aim is that countries must do trade along with themselves, and they must invest in different countries. So foreign trade and foreign investment, to promote foreign trade and to promote foreign investment, is the main aim of WTO. And of course it basically helps in, or we can say that WTO aims for Okay, I think now I'm audible. Fine. So the question is that the point is that institution, this institution, that is WTO, aims to remove the tariff as well as non-tariff barriers. Now, what are the tariff barriers or what are the non-tariff barriers? If we talk about the tariff barriers, the tariff barriers, we all know that before 1991 globalization, India was facing a lot of tariff barriers while doing importing and exporting of goods and services, because a lot of money which we have to give as taxes or tariff on the purchase of goods from other countries. These are the tariff barriers. But what are the non-tariff barriers? Non-tariff barriers like quota, like quotas were set earlier, है ना? Quota were set earlier that you have to just go for importing this much quantity only, not more than that, or not more than that you can export. So ultimately, the WTO's aim, one of the aim is to remove the tariff as well as non-tariff barriers. And WTO discourages bilateral trade agreements and it supports multilateral trade agreements. Now, what are the bilateral trade agreements? Suppose India and China, if they are doing any trade, that is known as bilateral trade agreement, because two countries are involved in doing the trade. But it basically more focuses on the multilateral trade agreement. It focuses that treating the whole world as one economy, that only two countries should not be in line to do the trade. Instead, there should be many countries doing the trade simultaneously. So it basically focus on the multilateral trade agreement. But now, what is the multilateral trade agreement? Multilateral trade agreement means when the trade is being done with along with various countries. That is the multilateral trade agreement. All right. So if we talk about 2016, most recent data that is available on internet, 2016 there are 164 members in WTO. This is the latest numbers of countries which are the members of WTO as per available by the WTO reports. So we have to just mention this only if the question comes in exam for 1 mark. How many countries have registered themselves in WTO? So we'll simply say 164 countries. According to 2016 published report of WTO data, there are 164 members of different countries which are there, which are the members of WTO. And of course, I have already explained that WTO tries to remove the barriers, whether that is the tariff or non-tariff barriers. WTO basically it promotes the multilateral trade agreements. It enables us that various countries collectively should do trade along with themselves, and there should not be any two countries which are doing the trade. Multilateral trade should be aimed at. Okay, clear hai yahan tak? So that is all about WTO which you have to study. Just you have to study about WTO. What is WTO? When it was established, if it replaced, then whom it replaced, how many members are there, what is the major objective, what are the major objectives of WTO. All right. And you should also write there that India is also a member. India is also an active member in WTO. As an important member of WTO, India has been in the forefront of framing fair global rules, regulations, and safeguards, and also advocating the interest of the developing world. Because India is one of the most active member in WTO, so India has been granted some extra power to frame or to come in forefront and frame the global rules, regulations, and safeguard the interest of various countries who are in the developing world. And India has kept its commitments towards liberalization of trade by removing quantitative restrictions on imports and reducing tariff rates also. As I told you that after 1991 we have reduced all the we have removed the licensing system also, and we have reduced all the non-tariff barriers also. Quotas which were imposed, now quotas have been removed. You don't have any quota just to purchase any commodity. You can just buy n number of quantities if you want to import from the other countries. Is it clear till now? Please tell me. Let me know if it is clear so that I'll move to the next topic. Now, just have a look at this. Categories of PSUs. See, we have studied in privatization that government privatized all its SIC units, which government thought that these SIC units are not giving any profit to the government. Instead, government has to impose resources again and again in these industries, but still government is not in a position to get anything in return from those industries. So government went for privatization of these SIC units. But you know, there were some good industries also which were the PSUs. Please note this. There were some good industries also which were the public sector undertakings. And these industries were somewhere which were not in a position that giving always the loss to the government. These industries were giving profits also to the government. I can say that not always, but yes, these industries were giving profits also. So government basically separated all these nine different companies or PSUs which government did not privatize. Why? Because these industries were, though these industries were public sector undertaking, but still were giving profits to the government. And these 9 industries were known as Navratnas. These 9 industries were known as Navratnas. So these were the Navaratnas or 9 Ratan of the government's industries, because these were not the SIC units and government was getting profit from these industries. You don't have to learn all the 9 names. You don't have to learn all the 9 names. You can just learn up only one single name, like MTNL, Mahanagar Telephone Nigam Limited. उसके अलावा we have BPCL, HPGCL, HAL, बहुत सारी हैं, but we don't have to learn all the 9 names. You have to just see to it that the Navaratnas are those companies which have been given the name of Navaratna because these industries were like gems to the government. Why? Because these industries were not the SIC units and these industries were somewhere giving profit to the government. All right? Okay. Then इनमें से भी जो छोटी छोटी कंपनी थी उनको मिनी रत्नास कहा गया और इनमें जो बड़ी बड़ी कंपनीज थी उन्हें महारत्नास कहा गया. See to it please. इनमें जो छोटी छोटी कंपनीज थी उनको कहा गया मिनी रत्नास एंड जो कंपनीज काफी बड़ी बड़ी थी उनको कहा गया महारत्नास. That's all. You have to study about this. Okay, let's move. Okay, see the next slide now. Now the question comes that what is the effect of these programs, these policies? What is the effect of these programs of policies which were hosted in 1991? First of all, new economic policy 1991, which aimed for LPG, liberalization, globalization and privatization. The very first point that I must tell you is, kahin par bhi, nowhere there was something which was done in favor of agriculture. Do you find anything in the favor of agriculture during 1991 policy? Neither in liberalization, nor in privatization, and of course not in globalization too. In all the three reforms, we have not studied that what was done in the favor of agriculture. So somewhere we can simply say that the new economic policy or the economic reforms 1991 did not aim for betterment of agriculture. It did not aim for betterment of agriculture. So definitely our structure changed. You know, our employment structure also changed. People were earlier more into agriculture. But when this policy came in 1991, we observed that the employment structure has been changed. Now people have started shifting from agriculture to industrial sector or to service sector. That drastic change was observed because agricultural growth rate decreased in India during the reform period. Because in LPG, we did not involve agriculture at all in India. As a result, it changed. Drastically it changed and people shifted their agricultural employment to industrial work or in service employment. All right, first point is clear. Okay. Removal of fertilizer subsidy by the government affected the small and marginal farmers. You know, government was suffering from losses during 90s. And when we did the economic reforms 1991, government want to increase its income and curtail its wasteful expenditure. So what government did? Government removed the fertilizer subsidy from the farmers. इससे क्या हुआ? इससे जो small farmers थे या जो marginal farmers थे उनको बहुत ज़्यादा effect हुआ. Their cost of production increased. Why their cost of production increased? Because ultimately now they have no subsidy to be availed from the government and they have to go for purchasing of the product at the market prices only. So their cost of production increased. Same way, reduction in import duty and removal of import quota resulted in arrival of foreign agricultural goods to our market and demands of our goods decreased. So negative point ये भी दिखा. हमने quota हटा दिया था. I told you already. The quota was removed. Not only the quota was removed, but also the import duty was reduced. Import duty was reduced. Then what was observed? The observation was that people started buying goods from the foreign countries, even the agricultural goods also, because there was no much tariff. There was no more tariff which was now imposed, and also there was no more restrictions on the quota. As a result, there was clearly import of agricultural goods in our economy. Then, minimum support price was also removed to curtail the expenditure because government was not having much amount to pay as an MSP also to the farmers. It also affected various market or various farmers. Farmers were encouraged to produce cash crops for export market. It resulted in the increase in the prices of food grains. Because farmers को encourage किया गया because we now will start the export also because barriers were removed. So they were encouraged to produce the cash crops for the export market. And what was observed? Prices of food grains increased. Prices of food grains increased. I hope यहाँ तक clear है that what happened to the agriculture market according to the new economic policy. Further topics I'll take tomorrow, and hopefully tomorrow the chapter will be over. Now I'm taking your doubts.